Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Autism Stories. I'm your host, Doug Bletcher, the founder of Autism Personal Coach. Autistic people are the true experts of the autistic experience, and Autism Stories is where we interview autistic people to learn from their stories, experiences, and get their insights. If you would like to be notified about each week's episode of Autism Stories, we suggest you subscribe on your favorite podcast listening platform. We would also appreciate it if you could give us a positive rating and review, as it will help others to learn about autism stories. On today's episode, Rosalie Babbette joins this episode to discuss the need for more studies regarding autistic Black people and her experience working in cybersecurity. We hope you enjoy today's conversation. Rose, thanks so much for joining me here on Autism Stories.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the invite.
I'd love to start out our conversation by learning, where does your story in the autistic community begin?
Logically, since birth, funny joke, diagnosed in 2021 of March. That journey of trying to figure out or discover if I was autistic started within a year, because through the whole process I had to go and get diagnosed, and then I had the testing, and the testing was wild. They did like a background history and there's a whole bunch of stuff. Long story short, it was like 9 to 12 hours of testing over 4 days. And then after that, I guess through that journey, I was kind of intrigued while I was on TikTok. So I kind of just started sharing my thoughts. And then from there, just continued to share my thoughts on TikTok. And then it continued after I found out that I was diagnosed with autism too.
Now, I learned about you on TikTok, and I think one of the important points that you made on there was that there needs to be more studies on experiences of autistic Black people, because you see so many things about autism that don't apply to you because you are Black. What might specific experiences don't you relate to, whether it's in research about the experience of us as autistic people, or on TikTok from other autistics that are sharing their experiences?
I think just the main one is when it comes to like masking or letting our guard down. I know this may apply for a lot of women too, and it's just having the quote unquote safe place to just continue to be yourself or to show those autistic traits out loud, as opposed to only doing them when you're around either really close people or when you're by yourself. Because if you do them and it's all the time, then I guess someone will try to seek help for you in a way. And then with the help, the younger you are, the more resources that you get, the more support that you get. But as I'm starting to see through my following, is that when it comes to Black autistics, we're later diagnosed, and we're diagnosed with a whole bunch of things beforehand. And because of that, we're hit with the whole resources, like barely any resources. And the resources that we do get are based on either white men or just people who don't look like us. And then it makes us double guess, like, is this actually autism and do I actually have it? So yeah, it's stuff like that.
Now, I love talking to people here on Autism Stories that have skills and do things that I don't think I could ever do. And you're one of those people, as you've worked in cybersecurity for several years, and you recently gave a presentation on the autistic advantage in cybersecurity. So I'm wondering, how has your autistic experience impacted you within the context of cybersecurity?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, there is, I would say, a lot of neurodivergent people in the cybersecurity field. And even when you think of the stereotypical hacker, you'll probably think of the person who may have some of the same traits as a person who has autism. So it kind of just interests the field because in cybersecurity, you're usually specialized And it's not necessarily with people, it's with the computer and the different ins and outs of the computer. So I guess that's really attractive to a person who has autism because it's like I don't have to talk to people and I can get specialized in skills, something that I'm really interested in, and then figuring out the puzzles, the logical part, the analytical part. And then it's also a field where I guess you express yourself through how you dress. Again, thinking of the stereotypical person in cybersecurity, they'll probably have like colored hair or wear bright colors. And those are some of the same traits that go with the autistic community. So, like, when I got into the field of cybersecurity and got my first job, I kind of started finding more people who acted like me, more people who looked like me. And then once I was like open with my diagnosis, then I found more people who are also on the autism spectrum within cybersecurity, which is pretty cool.
Now, I don't know if I could work in corporate America in terms of long term employment, position long term, as I think it would very easily lead me to autistic burnout. So I'm wondering, are there any ways you found by advocating or just finding ways to make that environment more accessible for yourself?
Yeah, so when I first started my first job in 2019, I was there for like year, 2 years before I got my autism diagnosis. And getting my autism diagnosis, I think the thing that led me to it was burnout. Because at the time I was going into the office. At first I drove, but then my car broke down and I started taking the train. And the train ride was about from my house to my job 3 hours there and back. So it was taxing. So working through the day, taking the train or commuting for like 6 hours, coming home and so forth and so on. And doing all this while I was rising inside of my job title was exhausting. So I felt something was wrong. But then I switched over to my new job, and my new job is work from home. And I feel like that better suits me. We do go in and visit each other once a year, but other than that, I think that suits me being at home, being in my own environment. And then when it comes to meetings, they're not face to face, they're videos. So I have the choice of either like talking to people and having video when I'm feeling that way, or I have the choice to just speak over and not have video on. And that helps like comfort me where I can like fidget and all these different things. And then kind of just advocating for myself for the different things that I need. Like I need things in writing. And if you tell me something, then I need it to be like actually written down somewhere. And yeah, just asking for what I need. And if they can't make adjustments, then either find a way for myself to be comfortable or keep pushing if it's something that you think you really, really need or want.
It amazes me every time when people don't think that they need something written down. Like I don't know how anyone remembers anything. Like that's
Exactly.
impressive. Like we're both humans and you don't need something written down. Like that's crazy to me.
Exactly. That's why I have notepads everywhere.
Now, I read that your expertise in cybersecurity lies in data loss prevention. What is it important for people to know about when sharing sensitive data with organizations they choose to work with?
The stereotypical phrase that data is the new gold. And even if you feel like you're not, when you're not paying for something, you're not paying for something in a monetary currency, but you're paying for your data. So I want to say be sensitive about that because you may think the data that they have on you is just your name or your address, your phone number, but that's just the basics. You can search that online and it'll be there. But they kind of just have like this whole written report about all your likes and everything, and that can be dangerous. So, like when you go to websites and it says at the bottom, because it's now permitted by law to put that at the bottom, is do not sell my data to anyone and just turn on the absolutely needed cookies. I do suggest that people always press that because if not, then you're just going to be getting ads and targeted and they're going to have your information and they probably already have it because we're hitting the period of breaches and everything that are happening every couple weeks. But just stay very safe because your data can be in anybody's hands.
Now, self self-talk and mantras are an important part of my mental health. So from what I understand, your mantra is never stop learning because life never stops teaching. So I'm wondering, what are some important things about life that you've learned recently?
Life works on life's terms. uh, you can try to control the way that your life is going to happen, but in some instances, life is just going to life, and you're going to have to figure out how to accommodate and either push yourself or be more gentle when life does continue to hit. And as long as you learn something in the process, then I say it's a lesson worth learning. And if not, you're probably going to have to repeat that lessons because that's just the way life works.
And lastly, Rose, how can our listeners learn about you beyond this interview?
Well, you can follow me on TikTok, and my TikTok is the Autistic Giraffe. And if you want to follow me for cybersecurity tips and videos, then I have an Instagram, and my Instagram is at technically two underscores Rose.
Well, Rose, thanks so much for joining me here on Autism Stories. It was great to meet you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much to Rose for the conversation. To learn more about Rose, please check out the link in the podcast description for this episode. We always love hearing from you and would especially love to hear from you relating to this episode on how do you educate yourself on the autistic experience from diverse backgrounds. Did you know Autism Personal Coach provides neurodiversity affirming support by autistics for autistics? We empower autistic adults and teens to lead self-directed, purpose-driven lives through our customized life coaching and community groups. Our distinct approach prioritizes each client's unique goals and preferences, fostering a sense of agency and promoting self-advocacy. Coaches work collaboratively with clients to develop personalized strategies and tools that can help with executive functioning, emotional regulation, relationship building, stress management, and much more. We also support parents and partners of autistic individuals by providing insights and guidance to bridge communication gaps and nurture mutual understanding. With our accessible remote services, individuals from any location can receive the assistance and mentoring they need. Join us today to experience judgment-free coaching rooted in empathy, expertise, and respect for autistic identity. Until next time, I'm Doug Bletcher of Autism Personal Coach. Talk to you then.